We're live.
Good monad.
Episode 46, Monad in the morning. It is my favorite day of the week, and it should be yours as well. What day is that?
Throughput
Oh,
Thursday.
that's right. It is Throughput Thursday, and you're watching Monad in
In
the
the
Morning,
morning.
brother.
Dude, I was going for the liquid death. It's.
We're getting it going. We have one guest today, but
An
we don't
enormous
need
guest.
we don't need more than one guest when you have Thogard, PvP, Alex Watts, champion of Monad Tech coming on. Very excited. Lot to chat through.
He is one of the craziest Twitter accounts. I highly recommend following him and checking out some of his tweets before he comes on live. It will absolutely give context to what I assume some of the conversation topics will be.
I assume so as well. We also have some news to run through this
Oh
week.
yeah.
Things are happening, things are progressing.
Maybe even before the news.
Before the news,
Jussa kindly let us in to know that he's going viral on Threads right now.
So
And
yeah,
but also said, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because we're just going to do it on stream.
yeah.
So I've been waiting for this. I'm
Okay,
excited.
so basically, I'll just read the tweet. I just put it on X because I'm curious to see what it does on X. But basically, I said, my son's school forbids AI in any capacity. I'm strongly opposed to that. These tools are cognition now. The job isn't to stop them, it's to teach kids taste, ethics, judgment, responsibility, and human connection while letting AI help them learn faster, reason better, and build more. Education is literally lagging behind the future it's supposed to prepare our kids for. And the irony, while most schools ban AI, adults are being rewarded for using it at work. That gap is the problem. And
We're in the singularity. We're just already past it.
and Threads
It's
very
going nuts.
disagreed and said that I'm retarded, basically.
Oh my god.
And that my son is gonna be dumb, and like I'm like, we literally talk about this every day at
Oh
work,
yeah.
and like we see the people. Like, here's the thing: the argument that they're giving
Yeah,
is
lay
that
out both sides.
so the argument is that studies show that it's making people dumber. There
Mhm.
are no studies because this has been around for a few years. So mathematically, you can't even have a study on long-term effects.
The good stuff's been around for under a year.
Literally,
Yeah.
like people, how could you have a study? There are preliminary findings that show that it limits your ability to retain skills in a narrow task,
Mhm.
just like calculators, autocorrect, all these other things have also done in the
It's legit
past.
the calculator problem.
Literally is.
You can't use a calculator because what if you don't have one in the real world? Like,
That's
dude,
that's
we're
the
past
argument.
that. We're past
Yeah,
that.
because the thing is the people who use it are the ones actually building things, not the dummies that are leaving comments on Threads.
I actually disagree. You know what we
Oh,
should
I
be
like
doing
this. I
instead
like
of
this.
learning AI tools? AI tools should not be in schools. We should actually go back to basics and teach everyone cursive.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Instead of spending a year learning cursive, they're vibe coding on Claude. They're screwed.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm screwed. I spent so long learning these things that I don't need anymore.
Big
Dude,
education wants to control the information flow. Do not let them get to you. You can vibe code your way out of the matrix.
my
Maybe let's
my
okay.
son's Spanish class, one of the test questions was who was like famous it was a pop culture question related to Mexico.
Mm.
How is that related to teaching him Spanish?
I mean,
Like,
I was medium at Spanish. I
history
was
class.
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
where do you think that's gonna actually land you success-wise in life?
Yeah. So maybe to lay out both sides because I clearly agree with one side, but to lay out both sides.
Yeah.
One is you need to build like a foundational set of knowledge that will shape the way you think about things and that will help you prepare for the future. And if you outsource that to AI, then you might not learn those things and like, I don't know, build them into like your
But
knowledge set and
but
build a foundation. So
that's
like they're
what I
saying,
said,
right.
right?
And so they're saying like if you use AI, your foundation will be weaker. The other side, which like maybe is true. There's certainly some things that come with that. However, what is I don't know, maybe a different foundation is actually better adapting people for the future, in
That's
which case you need to be using AI because 10 years from now, who is not going to be using it?
That well, and that's the thing is I think like we don't or these particular folks in this camp are trying to prepare children for a world that isn't going to exist. They're
Right.
trying to hold on to a past that is gone.
They're preparing them for 2010.
We can't go back.
Right.
Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
over.
yeah.
We're past the tipping point, and if you think that that's what the world is going to be like, you're screwed.
You have to prepare them for 2040, not 2010.
100%.
And if you're aiming at the wrong thing, it doesn't matter what you're teaching, you're just going to be misaligned regardless of where you're going in the future.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing is
Threads
like,
didn't like this.
oh, dude, like 200 comments of, and I just posted it on X to see if we get the same, similar response. But like, my son is literally coding his own programs right now. He's vibe coding it using AI and selling it online and making money at 15 years old. You can't tell me that like he's dumb.
All right, I'm replying right now.
Everybody in the comments, somebody said I am vape coding. Uh, yeah, what are the comments? World War III, make it possible, time travel back. Everybody go leave your opinion on my post, and I'm curious.
At JustUp11. Yeah, I mean, I just said I agree with the schools. Um, he stands no chance if he's using AI right now.
Yeah,
He's literally never gonna learn cursive.
he will never learn cursive.
Oh my goodness. It is strange, right? We're going like I think the reason that schools do this is because you have a lot of people who grew up, you know, in the past, like obviously. Nobody grew up in the future. You grew up with the tools and the things that you're familiar with, and then you need like broad alignment from all of these people on what you should be teaching kids. And they don't know what the future looks like. And so they're going with what they're comfortable with and trying to promote that instead of saying like, I don't really know, it's unpredictable what the future will look like, but let's give it our best shot. You can't like sell that to the principal or the superintendent or whoever like decides what school systems do. You can't be like, yeah, I don't really know, but like it's definitely not this, so let's just use the new stuff.
I think the big thing is like as an employer, the last thing I've said in that tweet is like adults are being rewarded for actually using these tools, which
Right.
is factually true. If you're an employer and you hire two people and one person is using AI and they're getting the same results or better faster, and the other person is not using AI because of principle,
Right.
who are you going
You're
to
cooked. You're
yeah,
cooked.
you're going to you don't care. I don't care as an employer or founder or anything. I would never care how you get to the right answer. Zero cares.
Right. And honestly, like probably the way things are going is you're not going to be in a 100,000 person company trying to like figure out how to do the task that your boss gave you. You're probably going to have to come up with what the right ideas are on your own and build them.
Yeah.
And like clearly AI is the way to do this.
Well, you guys were talking about case studies and basically saying there is no research, there is no case study because this stuff is all new. The evidence is kind of there though. Like Thread Guy went giga-viral yesterday. Um, Clip from his stream had over 1 million views, and the take was basically that the top 10 developers on Roblox are making over $38 million per year. And he's saying that's NBA money. Like that's superstar athlete, superstar celebrity, like
it
top 1% money. And these are kids, right? Like that wasn't possible previously. So if you said, don't play video games, read books, get outside, kind of a parallel to AI here, like, go do the things that kids have already done and always done, then your kid's not making $20 million as a
Yeah.
top Roblox developer.
38 mil a year is crazy.
Like,
And
that's
how many of them are
insane.
vibe coded?
Right, right.
That's the thing.
I would assume actually all of them are using AI to do. It's like you're not going to be like, all right, here's all the top guys, and actually none of them are using AI at all.
Yeah, they would be crazy not to.
Right.
Like, you can't compete to somebody who's not
No,
gonna do it.
it's like so far past.
What one of the arguments or comments was like, AI is known for giving wrong answers. I was cleared to run a 100-mile race by a doctor while having a life-threatening spine infection. That is a doctor who is
Right.
credentialed, who made a very, very large mistake that AI has never made that big of a mistake in giving me advice.
Yeah, and it, like, look, it could, but what is the? You're like, oh, AI makes mistakes, but
Humans
and
make
humans
way
don't.
more
Like, yeah.
mistakes. Like, I'm willing to wager
Right.
that humans are making more mistakes than AI is.
Right. 2 years ago, yes, it would hallucinate and it wasn't that good. At this point, it's past that.
Let's use self-driving cars, for example,
Mhm.
as so people some argument there is like, well, how is that self-driving car going to be able to predict if the car in front of them it stops and all of these things? It's like the difference is every single one of those cars, the more we add on to the road, the more they're all communicating to each other.
Mhm.
So it knows that the one in front of them is going to brake before the one behind it because they are in constant communication. Humans aren't. We're
Yeah.
never we're not we have no idea what that person in front of is
Right.
doing. If one car crashes on AI, every single one of them learn that mistake in that thing, as opposed to if one human crashes, it takes you being the one to crash to learn from your crash.
Did you see the food delivery robot that was like stuck on the train
I did
tracks
see that.
and it got just obliterated by a train? Like,
No
it's just like this little kind of cute box on wheels just
R2D2.
sitting on the train tracks, like trying to get the food from point A to point B, and then all of a sudden, Amtrak, baby,
Oh my
right,
god.
right to the dome.
C3PO is just
Yeah,
in
I don't know. We
tears.
were talking about robots recently, and I don't know. I think they're just there's something kind of cute about them. It's like this little thing just kind of like rolls along and brings your food, and it has like one mission, and then it gets stuck on the train tracks and just
Dude,
obliterated. It's
there-
like, oh man.
there's also like, I don't know. I feel like each of the last 3, 4 episodes we've talked about robots, so why not do it again?
Yeah.
On the same vein as self-driving cars, like they are currently much safer than human drivers. Like
Mm.
driving is dangerous. It's a dangerous thing. Like relative to 50 years ago, it's super safe. But like an AI self-driving car versus like your parents driving, like it's way safer. Same thing happens with robots. Like use surgery as an example. 3 years from now,
Precision is
the
like
precision, dude, and
Yeah.
it's like and it's not, "Oh, this person went to school for like, my brother-in-law is a surgeon. He grew up going to school, he went to medical school, now he's done his residency, and then he spent, like, 4 years doing whatever is after that. And, like, it is so much work for that one person to learn everything to be able to do this. All of these robots talk to each other, and they can upskill so much faster, like 3 years from now, when the robot that does surgery perfectly, are you gonna be like, "Oh, I'd rather have the human do it." Like, no.
guy that might have had a bad night.
Right, right. This guy had too much caffeine this morning,
Yeah.
he's jittery, like, robots don't have too much caffeine.
The imagine like a radiologist or an AI model, you can load up hundreds of thousands of scans and images that it can look for abnormalities, but like there is a very select amount that a human brain is capable of looking. So would you take an AI model trained on looking for things on a radiology scan or a human
Or
being
the
looking
human.
for it?
And it's look, I get, like, 2, 3 years ago, yeah, you're gonna choose the human because you trust that, but, like, 3 years from now,
And we
It's
use
it's dude,
this.
it's not even close. It's
We're
like
we're in this industry. We use this every day in some capacity. Like we're working with people who are building uh AI things on top of Mon. There's so much of this in our area, so we see the growth faster than I think most people do.
yeah.
And e-
Dude, I see Chaos Walker in the chat says 3 years from now, you still gonna use a human. How about this, Chaos Walker? We currently use robots for like LASIK eye surgery is done by a robot. Would you be like, oh, actually, nah, let the human put the laser gun to my eye and do it himself? Like, no, you use the robot because the precision is so far past what we can do. And it's just gonna generalize. And so, like, it's not, I don't know.
so
It's a crazy take. If the school's actually pushing that, that is
here's
crazy
the
to say.
kicker about this entire thing. So I took that tweet and I dropped it in ChatGPT before I posted it, and I was like, "Is this going to have good engagement?" And originally, the last line I said, "Humans are encouraged." It said, "If you really want to poke the bear, change it to rewarded."
Mm.
And so I used AI to engineer the response of the people.
Right, right.
So it's like
And
you
now they're
guys
buying into it.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like
Yeah,
you all further proved my point by doing
it
this.
it's a weird time where like it can actually be overwhelming because you're like, oh well, if AIs are gonna do surgery and they're gonna drive the cars and like they're actually gonna write tweets better than I can, like what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think it's completely okay for the answer to just be like, not quite sure, but figure it out.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reasonable answer. Any other answer is actually wrong and unreasonable in my
That's
opinion.
why I think what I said in there is like we need to be teaching kids ethics, taste. Like those are the things that will allow you to use the tools to be beneficial. If you don't have those things, and that goes back to what you said, like learning the fundamentals. You have to learn those things and then you use the tools. Like if you don't know
Yeah,
how to what to put into the calculator doesn't help you.
right. And it's a weird thing where like the way that we have or like the way that I went to school is like, hey, we're gonna learn about history, read this whole book, understand it, and then there's gonna be a test. And like the right answer is probably like for moving forward is probably not read it, understand this, and then prompt AI to come up with a good answer to the test. It's like just exposing them to more reality of like this is what the world is doing and then like these are the tools we have. Let's try to figure out how to make something cool. Or like maybe it's not even making something. It's like let's watch this video and everyone discuss what they think about it. But it's not, I don't know. The way that things are moving forward is not okay, this is what we're going to learn and then there's a test on it. It's like this is what the world is currently doing. Let's talk about it and figure out ways to interact with it, but you can't I guess like the broader theme, schools in the past have separated us from reality, had us learn all this stuff to prepare us for when we do go out and like touch what the world is actually doing. And I think in this case, the only way to learn because things are moving so fast is okay, this like let's just talk and discuss the tools and what is happening in the world every day. And then you will learn to adapt to it over time.
I think that school system hasn't really changed since it was preparing people for uh, like
Factory
regular
work.
yeah, exactly. Like
The Industrial
legitimately.
Revolution.
Like it hasn't really changed. It's just this
It might be
same
the wrong model.
yeah, I
Like
think
I would if there was a way to long, and I'm sure there are from prediction markets, but like long homeschooling,
oh
100%. 100% you have to.
yeah.
With leverage.
With leverage, what are some of the other topics?
Wait, no, I have I want to drop some alpha because
Okay,
we've
let's
got
go.
Thogard coming on in 5 minutes,
Oh my
6 minutes.
goodness.
When
Yeah,
he does,
we went on.
when he does come on, get the retweet cannons ready. Chat, want to blast this around. This is going to be maybe the best ever segment on talking monad tech.
I love this guy.
Yeah, this
He's
is going
so
to be
good
fun.
at talking tech.
Before we get to that segment, however, and like I said, get the retweet guns ready. Drop some comments on the pipelines tweet. If you you help us grow the stream, hey, we'll spin the wheel for you. Also, get the clipping machines ready. That's gonna be There's going to be some good Monad clips. I would love to quote tweet, repost, retweet great clips that we see on the timeline from today's episode. But alpha time,
Yes.
as promised,
Perfect.
payments
Yes.
is kind of a sleeper area of crypto. Stablecoins were a super hot narrative in 2025 and certainly expect that to continue, but it's not necessarily one of the most like glamorous cutting edge subjects that everyone is like, constantly excited about. But new blog article on the Monad site. Shout out Harry from the payments team. I think we're going to get him on next week to
Harry's a
talk
beast.
about this. There is a lot going on behind the scenes for Monad to support next gen payments. And in talking with Raj and the payments team, it's quite cool because if you kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, you realize that the payment systems that banks, countries, individuals are using was built like 50, like the system in the 70s.
The Swift system was built when people were learning cursive.
Precisely, right?
Right.
Like
The same thing.
Oh, yeah.
and like nowadays, sure, if you're in the US, you can send a Venmo to split the check with your friend, and you can, tap your Apple Pay, and it feels instant, but there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that is actually not that efficient. You're getting hit with fees that you don't see. Merchants build this into their prices. There's only maybe a seventh of the world that actually has access to a bank account. So there are actually a lot of problems with current payment systems.
And it's you would expect it to be this ultra high performance system that's built from the ground up for this. It's popsicle sticks and glue all the way down. They've just been adding little things over time. The system is set up in a way that is like fundamentally shitty. And this is a completely new setup that actually is built for this. It's
Right.
just so much more efficient that it's like guaranteed to disrupt the way that payments are currently done.
And if you are in that 1 out of 7 people that has access to the banking system, like go actually pay attention when you open up the mobile app for your bank. Because I guarantee you it sucks.
It sucks.
My banking app is horrific. Like it is the worst UX of all time. And I can't stand it, but I don't really know anything else. I don't really have any other options. And so 2025, we're seeing motion on stable coins. People are like, wow, this actually is much faster, much cheaper. It's much more efficient for individuals and businesses alike. And now you're seeing all this adoption behind the scenes on stable coins in particular. But for Monad, this has been a priority behind the scenes for quite a while now. Earlier in 2025, Monad acquired Portal, stablecoin infra company. They move millions of dollars in volume every day, and that is only increasing. And there's this very clear argument why a performant, globally decentralized, permissionless system is actually an order of magnitude unlock for this decades old payment system that is super inefficient. And all these big businesses, enterprise institutions are taking notice of that because they can actually save money.
It's just way better.
Tap new markets, and it's way more efficient. So the alpha is Monad. You're going to see a lot of progress on payments in particular, and this new blog article focuses specifically on ramps and off ramps.
Yeah.
Because if crypto itself, if a network like Monad can help solve these problems, it's only as good as the access for individual people. So you need these on ramps as core infrastructure across the world to meet people and businesses where they're at, seamlessly bring them on chain. And there's been a ton of progress behind the scenes for Monad, specifically in regions like Latin America and Africa and also, Asia and North America, South
United
America
States
as well. Yeah, so or Europe as well. So like, there's a lot coming behind the scenes. Definitely encourage people to check out this blog article. Harry, shout out Harry, absolutely crushing
Legend.
it. But it's called Powering Global Access, Monad's on-ramp ecosystem. It was published just last night. It is only a 4-minute read. So
Monad moves money.
Monad moves money. We're the breadcrumb trail is there, and payments is going to be a big thing. So
yeah, I mean the way, like, to give a very clear picture in your head, the way payments currently work is like the old United States postal system. It used to be like you put a letter in and a horse brings it along, and then they're like, oh, the new way to send messages is so much better because now we have cars. But blockchain rails for payments is like text messages. It's like, oh, what's better, sending a letter across the world in a car that's so much faster than a horse, or a text?
And
It's
I
like
wish-
it's night and day. Like, clearly this is the way that the world is going, and every single person sees it. And MON is going to be the best way to do it.
And I wish we could.
The horse.
I wish we could give even like a little bit more alpha. Some of the stuff we know. Coming
Yeah, read the
together
article. Read the article.
behind the scenes. But start by reading the article. Start paying attention. This is not something that just hits the crypto natives by any means. This is meeting real people where they're at, helping them have a better, more interconnected financial experience. And Monad is. This is something we can probably talk about with Alex a bit too.
Hell yeah. Is he in the thing? Not yet.
Yes, no.
Can we start? But one, I want to ask him the AI school question because I'm excited to hear what he says about that. And then second, I think we actually kick it off by the question that Keone left
Yeah.
last week, and we'll get his brain going like that. I think it'll spark more interesting conversation when we get into what Thogard is actually doing.
Want to hit a quick intermission and then
Is he ready? I don't know.
I mean, or we can hit a quick intermission.
quick intermission. We'll be right back with energy with Thogard PvP talking Monad.
Beautiful. Thogard.
All right, we're back. At least I am.
I am
Okay. Oh, Kevin's here as well. Let's go. This is going to be a ton of fun. We are about to bring on Thogard PvP, first live interview on Monad in the morning. Well overdue, and we have an intro to kick things off with while Kevin and I strap on the headphones. Jessup, hit it.
Why build on Monad?
So when people ask me this question, it's like really hard for me to explain why Monad without explaining why not Solana. My name is Alex Watts, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Fastlane Labs. We work with validators and apps to bring them together. Monad for us is the only blockchain that's truly next generation. Our technology does not work on Solana. On Solana, the chain is so streamlined that they had to make a lot of sacrifices. And those sacrifices mean that like certain things, such as on-chain figuring out who the best person to swap with. You can do that on Ethereum, but you can't do that on Solana. Solana's fast and it's high throughput, IBRL, but you can't do a lot of things that allow for the best possible outcome for users. I love Ethereum to death. It was really cool 10 years ago, but like it's 2025, come on. L2s are just centralized. Meanwhile, Monad has 500 millisecond block times, 1 second finality, which is critical for like interop. And if you're a dev trying to build something that has to do with anything global, you're gonna wanna use a distributed, decentralized network. There is nowhere else that we can actually do all of these things that help the users.
What do you think the hardest thing about being a founder and a leader is?
It's a very good question.
All right, the man,
Hello.
the myth, the legend, Alex, welcome to the inaugural Monad in the morning. I guess we got to kick it off with a little intro, as it is the first. Love the hat, by the way.
Thank you. Good morning, guys.
Morning. How's everything going?
You know, it's a cold day over here in Los Angeles. You know, I was shivering. It's a brisk 58 degrees. So just suffering over here. You know, other than that, things are going okay.
Danny and I have a ski trip lined up for this weekend. It says it's going to feel like negative 24.
Yesterday, walking through New York yesterday, it was like 4 degrees coming in.
Couldn't
in
move,
the morning.
dude.
Brutally
58. You better go get a tan for the rest of us who are sitting in the cloudy 10 degrees New York.
cold. Yeah, I'll take 58.
I've lobbied Keone in the past to move the Monad headquarters to California. I've pitched him on like Reno, so you can get like the tax benefits of Nevada, which is right next to Tahoe. Also great for skiing. You know, and I've also obviously pitched him on LA. So I'm gonna keep trying, guys. I'm gonna try my best to pull y'all out of that hellscape. So root for me.
Well, it's great. It's just cold right now. Just cold. I don't know. I think we had a few things lined up. I might just jump in front and ask for your opinion on this tweet that Jessup sent that's going viral on Threads. I don't know. Jessup, do you want to explain it? We don't have to dive into it because the viewers have already heard it. But just generally, I think it's like, should kids be using AI in school? And people are losing their minds over this prompt.
Ooh, it's a good question.
Yeah, and I think so. Most people are saying like, you're an idiot. You don't understand how schools work. If your kid is using AI, he's not going to learn the foundational skills you need to exist in the real world. And then clearly the other side is like, the world has changed an enormous amount. And if you're not using AI, like if you don't use AI today, you're basically unemployable. Like nobody would ever hire you if you don't know how to use these tools.
I don't think that the right amount of AI to use in schools is 0. I think that's like pretty clear. But I also think that it really depends on, you know, what the kid's trying to do. I personally think, especially for like maybe the lower grades, you know, like everything elementary school and junior high, like you probably want them to learn like how multiplication and how addition and, you know, a little bit of history on their own. But like once you get up to like high school and college, school becomes less about like learning and more about, you know, just rote memorization, which, you know, call me old fashioned, but I think that's like not really too terribly important anymore these days.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say elementary school, junior high, try to keep it out if you can, and after that, like, full steam ahead. The kids that don't use it are going to work for the ones that do.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, well, now all of the viewers know that we're talking to an extremely smart, grounded, common sense, focused person. And I think that was a great way to set the stage. So thank you for that take, Thogard.
I mean, I'm curious,
no, thank you.
for your take, Alex, kind of a different audience or like different user base, I guess. Like as Kevin puts it, a sharp builder, cutting edge in the crypto space. How are you using AI?
It's a good question. For
Like
me,
when I draft my tweets, the AI helps me think of rage bait questions to end them with. No, I'm just joking.
I actually don't tweet at all with AI. I feel like that's just so easy to detect. We do use it in our workflow a lot. We'll use it for a lot of reviews. We'll use it for a lot of it's like this extra layer of security or safety where you just kind of put everything through an AI. And yeah, you get like 20 to 30 false positives, or like it'll point out issues that it thinks are issues but that aren't. But that's par for the course, and I think that's okay. Realistically, for me, the way I use it is to just LARP as being good at math, which I'm actually pretty bad at. But everyone thinks I'm like great at math. Dude, I didn't take anything beyond calculus, but people are like, oh wow, all these advanced like math things. Like there's this like level in math where things stop being like calculus and it starts being like named after the people that invented it, like just like dudes' last names. And like I just run into a wall when I hit that level of math, but no one knows because of AI, because AI can cover me. But like I know that like for my team, we do use AI a decent amount. We've used it on the front end. We use it for reviewing the smart contracts. We've used it for editing stuff, but we try not to let it actually write any smart contracts. I think that's like where we're still a little bit suspicious and not quite 100% trusting.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing to get right? Security over everything. So human in the loop, human doing all the work on that side makes sense. Maybe for like some website design, AI can handle that stuff. The low risk things where speed is a priority.
I actually got rugged by website design. I just want to get this off my chest. I got rugged by AI for website design. Okay, and I'm a little bit burned. The general idea, like I think like 6 months ago or 7 months ago, was you can use AI to build a website now. It's super easy. And so we ended up building this game on Monad testnet called BattleNads. Both of y'all were actually players in the game. And it was just this PvP game where you could go around killing people, fully on chain, fully automated. And if you killed someone, you got all their testnet Monad. And the whole thing was smart contract based. There was no back end for it. It was a genuinely fully on chain game, which is virtually unheard of before or since. And I did that because I was like, you know what? I can just vibe code a front end. And I couldn't. I couldn't. And our actual front end designer was like so busy working on the actual Shmonad website and just like doing the actual stuff that, we had hired him to do, that I couldn't pull him off of that to work on, some silly little testnet game that was actually pretty awesome, I have to say. But at the end of the day, dude, I spent like maybe a month trying to fix that website. And my big takeaway is that like once you start vibe coding, it's very, very hard for a human to then get in there and like put the pieces back together. And so it's like going in with anything like AI based, you kind of want to make sure that like you can see the exit from the starting point. And if you don't see the exit, you're just going to get lost along the way. And in my case, I didn't know the first thing about front ends. I'm not a front end designer at all. And so because I kind of went in without knowing really where to go to or like what specifically to tell it to do, I just like, build a front end. I wasted maybe a month of my time. Granted, this was during testnet, so it's not the end of the world. But that was my one experience, and I am very hesitant to trust AI again with all that.
Well, maybe you should launch it on mainnet, because I don't know if in this game where I guess Danny and I are players, were the people killing or being killed?
No, you guys were dungeon bosses.
Dungeon bosses.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would love to play it on mainnet. Just, put a little mon up and play against my buddies. You did mention Schmonad. Can you break down for people who might be hearing Schmonad for the first time? What is Schmonad? What are the things you are actually working on right now, Thogard?
So Schmonad, actually, I pronounce it Schmonad.
Schmonad. I like that.
Just
I
so
like
you
that.
know.
It's cleaner.
The correct pronunciation of monad is monad, but for Schmonad, it's Schmonad, just because we like to keep people guessing.
Right.
And so the overall idea here with Schmonad is we wanted to make the world's first genuinely decentralized liquid staking token. And I think if you're listening to this, you probably know what a liquid staking token is, right? It's been around for a while. It's like 2020 era tech. Like, it's 2026. If you're not familiar with what a liquid staking token is, it's a liquid representation of stake that you can trade and use as collateral and just do fun DeFi stuff with. And so when we were like setting out to build Schmonad, we had a lot of time. And we just kept building and we kept building. And one of the things we realized pretty early on was that Monad, the blockchain, really did actually give us the first chance of any blockchain to build a fully decentralized liquid staking token. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of block space. There's on-chain staking, which is huge. And we have the ability to actually handle all of the staking mechanics, all of the allocation mechanisms, all of the, which validator do we stake with? That entire thing happens on chain. And no other LST on any blockchain does that. A lot of the LSTs, like on Ethereum, you might have some backend somewhere calculating, like, all right, which validator are we going to pull from? On Solana, you've got all these like rules, and you've got this like posting like a ZK proof. What we do is we just skip all of that, and we just wrote like the fattest smart contract. Like, guys, I'm not gonna lie, Schmonad it's a pretty big contract. It's got some extra.
We
pounds.
like big contracts on Monad.
Hell yeah. And that's what we were buying into, right? It's like there's this whole idea of like, yeah, blockchains are automatically decentralized, but in like 9 times out of 10 that's bullshit, because 9 times out of 10, there's some dude behind the Wizard of Oz's pyrokinetic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just some backend somewhere that's just making the decisions for everybody. And we were like, screw that, let's actually do it the hard way, because we have enough time to. And we ended up just doing it, and the entire thing is on chain. We spend every 5 hours we spend about like 1,000 blocks worth of like Ethereum blocks in gas, and like for Monad that's just like a drop in the bucket. Like, it's not even noticed, just because the whole thing is just fully on chain. We've also, because it's all on chain, that also allows us to pretty directly integrate it with other parts of our business. Validator based MEV, which is actually rolling out on Monday of next week. It's actually kind of like in the final stages of getting prepped right now, as well as application specific sequencing, which is, I'm not sure if you guys saw the news today, but we actually sold, there's like an acquisition that was made today. Chainlink acquired the application sequencing that Fastlane has created, and is going to be doing it on every blockchain except for Monad, because we're going to be continuing to drive the Monad side. And that also just plugs directly into the liquid staking token. And like these kinds of things, like these integrations can't be this direct in like other ecosystems, because there's just not enough room, because it does use compute, like it uses extra gas. But like, it's like, 1/100th of a penny in our case over here on Monad. And like, I'm willing to pay that for full decentralization. So yeah, that's what Schmonad is. Or sorry, I pronounced it wrong. That's what Schmonad is.
I wanna double click. I mean, a lot of great stuff there for sure. I want to double click on this Atlas acquisition announcement by Chainlink, because one, this is breaking news. We love breaking news here on Monad.
I haven't even heard it yet.
It's hot off the press. Kevin hasn't even
just
heard
in.
It. Yeah, so
an hour
just
and a half
in.
old.
Breaking
Wow.
news, 90 minutes old. Alex, take us through that again. What is this? Kind of what happened? What's the impact, and how does this affect the focus for you and your team moving forward?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Fastlane until like today had 3 real lines of business. The first line of business was staking. The second line of business was MEV for validators. And the third line of business was MEV for applications. Two of those lines of business were Monad only. And that's the staking and the validator MEV. And that was great. Those really scale that well, to be candid, right? It's like you can't really do staking on multiple places. I know a lot of people try. We find that that's just politically messy, and we'd rather go all in on the winner rather than have 100 different losers. And so, like for us, those two lines of business have always been Monad only. But there's always been this third line of business, application specific sequencing. And because it's geared for apps, there's not really anything directly tying it to the Monad blockchain. Like we run it on Monad. A lot of the apps on the Monad blockchain use it. But it wasn't just like a Monad product. And so we were also running this on places like Hyperliquid, BNB, Base, Ethereum, Arbitrum, like everywhere that you can think of. Interestingly enough, it doesn't run or it doesn't work on the SVM because of some of the limitations of the SVM, which is unfortunate for the SVM. We can talk about that later on if we have time. But one of the things that we at Fastlane realized is that, like, you know, we still were like having to keep infrastructure going just to monitor all of these things happening on other chains. And we were working pretty closely with like partners, and we realized that like hey, we really want to just go all in on Monad, because like we didn't want our attention fragmented. And so what we did is we talked to Chainlink, who is like the OG Oracle, right? Like it's Chainlink, right? Like they've been around for forever. They are, you know, the Oracle team, and they offered to acquire it, all of our non-Monad like operations, and we were like, let's go. And it made a lot of sense for us. It allowed us to like, you know, really candidly to take the capital that we got from that and like double down on Monad, and to just really make sure that like the teams that were managing this on the non-Monad blockchains, which is like all the blockchains other than Monad, is the team that is like, you know, been around for a long time managing infrastructure that just has the supply and like the resources to be able to keep all of this application specific sequencing going. Meanwhile, on Monad, there's a special carve out for the deal. And the way that it works on Monad is that it works the same as before, right? And so applications that are integrated with application specific sequencing, you know, a portion of the fees generated from that still go to boost the yield of our liquid staking token. Like, you know, same support, like everything is still there on Monad. And so for us, this was really just a way to like take a, you know, part of the company that was probably like starting to get a little bit segmented from the rest, and to hand it off to someone that we thought would be the best possible custodian for that, and could really like take it from one and turn it into a 10. And that was Chainlink.
Awesome. Well, huge congratulations. First of all, that's really exciting. And second of all, I want to double click on a phrase that you keep repeating, and I very much so like it. That phrase is double down on Monad, double down on the winner. And my question is, why? Like, what's your perspective on, you know, doubling down on Monad? Obviously, I am inclined to agree with that. I'm sure Kevin is as well. But what do you see as kind of the differentiation and potential for Monad in a world, as you described it, where there are hundreds of chains in existence? Obviously, there's an opportunity cost for where you and builders across the board are spending time. And there's obviously this clear thesis around doubling down on Monad. So would love if you could unpack that for us.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I've got fat bags. So, you know, just gotta play to my bags. But I think that, like, realistically, you know, from my perspective and from I think Fastlane's perspective as a whole, we have a lot of experience working across a lot of different blockchains, right? Like, Monad was not the first chain that we ever built anything on. Like, we've built infra, and like we've worked with apps on quite a few different chains. And so we really see not like how they present themselves, but we really see like underneath the hood. Like we really get in there and we really learn how they work. And that insight and that like visibility has really led us to be able to like we can tell pretty quickly if a chain's good or not. Like I don't want to sound like I don't like dunk too much on other chains, but like we've gone really deep exploring a lot of different ecosystems, both from like an ecosystem perspective, like, you know, how strong is the foundation, as well as from a technological perspective. And in that sense, like, I just genuinely believe that with blockchains, there is this sort of power law, right? You saw it with Ethereum, and then you saw it with Solana. And I think that Monad does have the ability, or like really the capacity and the potential to outpace both of them. And I think that, like, a lot of people might think I'm crazy. Like, how could Monad outpace Ethereum or Solana? Well, first of all, neither one of them have fast finality. The SVM has guardrails. Yeah, I could talk for hours about all the things that Monad can do that, like, those two can't. But at the end of the day, from like genuinely from my point of view, there's just nowhere else, right? And it's like you look at all of these like other ecosystems, and like once you start like messing around, like building inside and like tinkering with stuff, you start to know all of their pain points and all of their breaking points, and you start to know all of the shortcuts that they took and all of the things that they did that just kind of add tech debt over time. And I know a lot of people like to dunk on like Monad and on Category Labs for taking a long time to launch. I love to tease those guys like every week about it. But like at the end of the day, there weren't any shortcuts. And from like a builder's point of view, that's not really something that you see anywhere. And so my thesis is pretty simple. It's like, why Monad? It's like, well, there's just nowhere else. Like, it's the only serious blockchain. And when it came time to like, really see like, how can we double down? Just divesting ourselves from the non-Monad parts of our tech stack and really, really doubling down hard, like with our money into the Monad ecosystem was a no-brainer, because that's just where we think the future is.
I am most definitely inclined to agree with you there. But it is, a hard thing, especially for non-technical folks like myself, prior to, falling down the rabbit hole and starting the Pipeline podcast and, ultimately joining the team. Here you go, charger for you, Kevin.
Thank you, sir.
Prior to falling down the rabbit hole and like getting hands-on involved, I was very much so in the naive camp of like, we don't need other chains. I had experienced the UX on Ethereum in 2020 and 21, and then, hopped over to Solana, and it was, night and day. The fact that I could pay a couple fractions of a cent in gas fees to mint an NFT, and it's kind of popping up in my wallet immediately. It was like, that is cool for me as a user that doesn't really understand the inner workings of this tech behind the scenes. And now we're in this spot where, from the user perspective, I think people really want to see like, okay, what are these novel applications? What are these, net new primitives that Monad and Monad only can support? And that's kind of the lens through which they look to evaluate the chain specifically. And, of course, there's some motion on that side of things, like a very much so a concerted effort to support builders and cultivate a strong ecosystem. But you point out some interesting aspects I think that non-technical folks might just not be aware of in terms of truly how differentiated Monad is behind the scenes and what that can ultimately enable, not just in the next like 2 or 3 months, but over the next 12 months, 2 years, 3-year time horizon. I think we're going to see, that much more clearly.
Yeah, I think so too, especially with this current rise of RWAs or real world assets. And like as DeFi continues to progress and as it continues to become like more intertwined, for better or for worse, it's, I would say, inevitable. And as it becomes more intertwined with TradFi and traditional assets, like all of a sudden a lot of these sort of like seemingly random decisions start to make a lot of sense, such as the fast finality. Out of curiosity, do either of you guys know how fast the finality is on Solana?
I know that there's actually been debate about the finality side. I think it's on the order of like 10 seconds, if I'm not wrong.
It's actually a trick question because no one knows.
Okay, all right, good.
It's like probabilistic finality, but I think that like with like and Solana's working to fix this, by the way. Because like Solana agrees that finality is really important, but like when you look at RWAs if you are trying to trade something on chain that has collateral off chain that needs to like move in response to what happens on chain, you need fast finality so you don't have to worry about like double spending, like other stuff. Same with payments. You know, if I'm doing a payment and this payment's going through on Ethereum, and I'm like, you know, using like a Monet, or like I'm using like an Ethereum debit card at McDonald's, I don't want to get called back 2.5 hours later by the McDonald's store manager saying, sorry, there was a reorg on the blockchain, you have to come back and pay with cash. Like that would be absurd. But like Monad has 1 second finality, which is insanely fast. It's like Solana and Ethereum are nowhere close to it. Solana's working on becoming just as fast, but they're still in like the conceptual, like they're still writing like white papers and kind of going down the same path that the Ethereum side went down 5 years ago. We don't need to get too deep into that, but long story short, it's like the Monad blockchain has all of the tools you need now for like on-chain finance. And what's more important is it has all of the tools that you need to like do all of it on chain. It's not just like, hey, we're gonna stash some RWA stuff here so that these like backends, you know, over in like Chicago can be trading it. It's not that. It's like the actual whole thing can be on chain, and that's not possible on Solana either. And it's just really, really cool to like see all this stuff. And it's most of all, it's decentralized, right? So it's like everything I've said so far, Mega ETH can do. But the one thing Mega ETH can't do is not shut down if AWS East goes out, right? You know, which we've seen happen. And so I think that, like, you know, realistically, if you're talking about a global financial system, if a single data center goes down for like 30 minutes, you can't have like the entirety of world
Finance
trade
stop,
right? That would be absurd, right? And so like these decentralized networks, everyone like talks about decentralization like it's this goal in and of itself, and it's just like, oh, it's decentralized, it's like magically better. And like, yeah, it is actually, but the better question is like, why, right? And the reason why is because decentralization implies liveness. It implies that if something like crashes or something goes down, the network is completely robust. The network will keep on going, everything will be totally fine. And that's really what you need if you're trying to do the entire world's like infrastructure on chain. Like that's what you need. You can't do that on an L2. Like, yeah, L2s are fast. Yeah, L2s don't have the guardrails that like Solana has, but they're not decentralized. They're not robust. They do go down. Like Monad, there is no other option. Like Monad has everything that you need. No other place does, period.
Tying together both the commentary on decentralization, which I was actually going to ask about before you gave us that awesome rundown, and what you mentioned previously, the very common mantra of no shortcuts around, you know, basically the Monad vision and Monad philosophy. I saw, and I won't call it out, I won't say who it was, but I saw some like marketing from a chain, which I'm pretty sure was dead serious and not satirical. And it was like a quote from a podcast, and this guy was basically like, well, if you move the validators closer together, you can actually make it much, much faster. And it's like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
If you let the MLB players take steroids, they're gonna hit more home runs.
Right. It's like,
I would actually
what are we
watch
talking
that,
about?
Like,
Yeah.
just throwing that out there, but
Yeah. Time and a place for sure. But it's like, you know, what game are we playing here? Like, what goals do we actually have? And, you know, decentralization is not sexy because it's basically protection against the worst case scenario. And oftentimes those worst case scenarios are inevitable. It's not if, but it's when. And so if you actually do the upfront work of mitigating what a bad scenario looks like, then a lot more becomes possible. Then you can actually say, hey, maybe this is a good fit to bring the entire financial system on chain, from payments to institutions to RWAs and everything in between. And I think that's something that, you know, as more and more businesses and enterprises are rolling up their sleeves and doing heavy due diligence on blockchain, not just who's got the narrative right now, who's got, you know, motion amongst crypto natives. They're looking at this through a very, very different lens. And I think a lot of the intentionality behind Monad and a lot of the hard work, the no shortcuts attitude is really going to become much more valuable in the public eye in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I think what one pattern that I've seen is like now we're in 2026. Like the average person who joined crypto in the last 2 years, decentralization doesn't mean much to them. It's just like, oh, that's like a thing that crypto does. For like earlier classes, so like I'm class of 2017, when I was getting pilled on crypto, it was like these properties are important and decentralization is how you get there. And so it was very much like, what are the characteristics that decentralization enables, right? Decentralization is a means to an end. And I think for most people now that haven't gone down that path of understanding what is important and why, they just kind of have like, oh, well, there's a bunch of traits for chains and decentralization is one of them. And I don't really see why it matters. And so I think explaining like, what are the ends? Like, what are the goals? What are the good things that we get out of having a decentralized blockchain is actually really important. You did an awesome job of that. I think that is generally lost among people. Do you have any other ones for what it's worth? Because that is like a great clip. It's like, why does decentralization matter? Well, do you want the entire financial system to go down if AWS has an outage? Like, no. Oh, okay. Well, now I know why decentralization matters. And there are like a few other ones. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but yeah, like clearly it's an important thing.
I think that like it is, and I think that a lot of people, to your point, like a lot of people kind of miss out on it because we've all been blasted with like, oh, it's a blockchain, it's therefore by default decentralized, and so like a lot of us have become inoculated, I might say, to just that word in general, right? And it's like I find that unfortunate. I find that unfortunate because I think that a lot of like the really beautiful things that are being built these days, and I would consider Monad to be one of them, but like a lot of these things that are like just actually decentralized, it's just very hard to differentiate them from the things that aren't, right up until the things that aren't just fail spectacularly and lose a lot of people a lot of money in just like giant fireball train wreck explosions. And so I think that like, you know, all things else being equal, one of the other things that I find like really, really interesting is that you can always add centralization later, but things that are centralized have this tendency to stay centralized.
It's a one-way door.
And so like take a sequencer, for instance. It would be very simple for me to build a let's call it a CLOB, a central limit order book, that has the speed of some of the CLOBs that are being built on Mega ETH. Actually, I would say it would be 1,000 times faster. I would just have to stash a backend somewhere, sequence everything in that backend, and then just send the resulting transactions on to Monad. But I wouldn't even need to wait for the Monad blockchain. I could just lock everything in a smart contract, yada, yada, yada. Like, you know, it would be a little bit involved, but it wouldn't be that involved. You could vibe code the whole thing. And then because we're not actually executing like an entire L2, it's just like transactions, you could do it 1,000 times cheaper. There's just way less compute used. Like, I can always build that. Like, building a centralized L2 that's like not having to wait 7 days for finality, just has to wait like 1 second for finality. Like, anyone can build that on Monad. And, you know, I know that that's not like the sexiest narrative right now, but like L2s that like roll up to Monad is actually like a really, really cool concept that I think some people, you know, could be very interested in exploring. But like, why? You know? I think that in some cases, maybe you want that level of centralization. In some cases, maybe you want that level of control. Maybe the extra, like, you know, 100 milliseconds matter. But, like, realistically, you can always add that onto the foundation. What you can't do is you can't go backwards. You know how many of, like, the L2s that started off with a centralized sequencer have, like, decentralized their sequencer after 5 years of saying they were going to do that? A big fat zero. And it's almost as if that's just human nature to, like, once something is centralized, to keep it centralized, to keep that power, to keep that revenue stream. And it's almost as if for, you know, thousands of years of human history, that's exactly what we've seen, like time and time again. It's almost as if it's like one of like the single most like unifying principles of humanity is that centralization, you know, aggregates and centralizes. And like, really, I can't stress enough that like, even if a centralized solution, like even if there is a need for centralization somewhere in there, okay, but the foundation, the thing that you're building it on top of, should be fully decentralized, because if it is not, you can never get that back, right? It's just like we've seen over and over again. Nothing ever decentralizes. Everything only goes in that one direction, and it's tragic, but it also makes you really appreciate the things that start off right in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And I think it actually kind of the way that you describe that lends credibility to Monad's model, which is like build an extremely strong decentralized foundation, and then once you have that, tackle the other problems, right? Then build the applications that everybody wants to use, then figure out how to make people understand that this is very important versus, a centralized version, which, could go down at any given point. It's basically the same exact thing that people have been using for thousands of years. And I think that like generally is lost on people. But the people that do understand it, it's like so obvious to them. I don't know. It's just like, it seems to be the most misunderstood important thing in crypto, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know the one thing that I do appreciate, and I don't know that I knew this 5 years ago, but I think the one group that understands that fact better than anyone else is institutions, like large TradFi institutions. And I hate to use this word because I roll my eyes whenever I hear it, but the credible neutrality, that term again, it's like it's a term that's been thrown around a lot, but like the credible neutrality and the liveness and not having to worry about crashing, I think is something that institutions appreciate, because at the end of the day, like if you're looking at a centralized sequencer, that single point of failure can fail for a variety of reasons, right? Whether it's a failure for one specific person because the owner of the sequencer was like, yeah, screw that guy in particular, I'm going to block all his transactions. Or if it was just like a power outage, or if it was a crash, or if this actually happened at Fastlane, if the cleaning crew, vacuum cleaner, accidentally pulls out the power cable of your rack, that actually caused an outage for us for some of our MEV stuff for about an hour about a year ago. Like, but that's just like absurd. But it's like you can't have global finance shut down because of that, right? Because like the janitor just like went like a little bit too far back when he was cleaning things up. And that's what the data center told us, by the way. I don't know if I believe them. It sounds kind of BSy to us, but that's genuinely what they told us. But no, it's like at the end of the day, there are these things that are out there that, whether it's intentional or not, or regulatory or not. The other thing too, dude, I hate talking about this because it kind of makes me sound like I'm like excited about regulation, which is always a bad thing. But like, dude, regulators can tell what's decentralized and not, right? Like if you read through any of like these newer drafts and any of these newer bills, like there's pretty clear cutouts for, this is decentralized, this is going to be exempt from all these rules, and then this is not. And genuinely, I think the reason why a lot of this is the case is because they know that like things that are truly decentralized, they can't shut down anyway. It's impossible. And I think that like the ability to be immune from regulation is probably one of like the core descriptions, or like one of the core properties of a good decentralized system. Fastlane, like me, the government could, obviously I don't hope this happens, please don't, but like every single person on the Fastlane team could like end up in, I'm not gonna say jail, let's just say we could take a vacation somewhere to a place that has no internet for like a month, and the entire team could just stay there living in like the mountains somewhere, no internet for a month, and our LST would keep on going. It would keep allocating. Every single one of our data servers could go down, all of our servers could crash, there could be no infra that we have that's online still, everything could crash, and our LST would keep going, our MEV system would keep going, because at the end of the day, all they are is just smart contracts on the blockchain. Like there's not really like any like requirement for us to run infra, because we took the stuff that used to be running on these servers and we just made fat smart contracts on Monad. And like that means that like no matter what happens to us, these things are going to keep going, and they're going to keep cranking and keep perpetuating and keep earning yield for the stakers, keep allocating stake to the validators, keep processing MEV for the validators too. Like there's just like that is a really, really strong property to have. Like no one can turn it off. Like we can't even turn it off. Like and that's decentralization, and that's like liveness. And if you want something that's going to last the test of time, like if you were, this is a very dark subject, but I'm going to go there anyway because I think it's important.
Cool. Perfect.
If you wanted to do estate planning on chain, estate planning, by the way, is like, how you pass on like trusts and like stuff like that to your next of kin. Are you going to do like your smart contracts that are going to be governing how your great grandchildren handle their generational wealth? Are you going to be doing that on an L2 that you could shut down by whoever's governing the area of Virginia like 200 years from now? Absolutely not, right? You want to do it on like a decentralized system. And because it has liveness, because it has this like self-perpetuating nature, it cannot be shut down. And so I think that like at the end of the day, these things do matter. They matter a lot, not just to like the institutions, but I think that as the crypto market and as the crypto audience starts to mature, not just for estate planning, that came out wrong, but like as